delighted to introduce to you my dear friend, Rachel. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you, Christina. So happy to be here.
Well, she has a lot of wisdom to share with you, so I want her to talk to you about hugs. I know it sounds silly, but hugs have transformed Rachel's life, and I want her to share the amazing story of how one hug or multiple hugs has changed her life.
Well, I agree with what you're saying, because sometimes people are like, hugs, really we're listening about hugs, but hugs are so meaningful, and there's so much more to physical touch in a loving, caring way that is beyond, I think, what we even understand today. Whenever I grew up, I had a wonderful mother and love her dearly. She's so precious to my heart, and we're very close. But she came from a very, very hard childhood. Where hugs and kisses were just not part of the everyday. Mm-hmm. Physical touch was just not something that they did ever, not even on birthdays. Like, it just wasn't done. Very much just a routine day by day. So, as a parent, she did so much better to just do a side hug, mm-hmm. and little touches here and there. It's so sweet and precious. And she grew so much as a parent from what her parents were. So I applaud her in that. But I will say that I didn't grow up comfortable with physical touch and affection. And I know a lot of people who they'll say, I'm just not a hugger. Mm-hmm. And they kind of like, whoa, don't touch me. Mm-hmm. And other people who are just like the huggy, lovey-dovey. Yes. And I always thought it was a personality thing. I always thought that some people are just more loving than other people. However, I will say, as a teenager, I had a very lovely woman, her name was Carol, in our church, come up to me one day and she said, Rachel, the Lord told me that I'm to hug you. And I said, okay. And so she gave me this hug and she's like, but I'm really going to hug you. And she just held me like in this bear hug. And I was hands at my side, totally uncomfortable with the whole situation, yes. Not really sure like what was happening and a little uncomfortable. And so I was like, okay, well, thank you for that. And she's like, and the Holy Spirit told me I'm going to keep doing this every time I see you. And I was like, oh, fantastic. What? I'm like, what kind of sick joke is this? Because it just was so uncomfortable. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Well, thank you. Like, well, yes. But I have to say, I felt when she was holding me, even in spite of like when I got over that original rigidity that mm-hmm. I had, I just felt like this like melting peace, if that makes sense, just yes. kind of like pour on me just yes. a smidge, just enough that I actually wanted her to hug me next time, but I didn't know like I knew she would have had to come to me because I was not going to go up to her by any stretch of the imagination to hug her. So fast forward several months, she was consistent, true to her word. Every time she saw me, she would give me this just giant mama bear hug. Mm. And I just began to just like cry when she would do that. It just melted something inside of me, something that I didn't even know had become hardened. It was almost like a wall had been formed to protect myself. And a wall that, when you go through hard times, that, sometimes we will do that. We'll protect ourselves to the point that we don't show emotion because showing emotion is vulnerable. It's maybe too raw. And I definitely was that kind of person that was just really tough. And I didn't need anyone to feel sorry for me. I didn't need anyone mm-hmm. to look at my life mm-hmm. and give me a sob story. But then realizing that in forming that wall and forming that barrier, it's also shutting other people out. And I also wasn't allowing myself to be loved. Yeah. It's so important to be loved. And I think we talked about a verse recently that says, love your neighbor as yourself. And it's just such a simple verse. However, the Holy Spirit spoke to me recently and it said, love your neighbor as yourself. How do you love yourself? I never heard the verse in that way of we can only love people as much as we're able to love ourselves. But in the Christian church, isn't that something that we're not supposed to do? We're not supposed to think about us and be self-centered and be prideful. But then there's that fine balance of, no, God's called us to be whole. And whole means being thankful for the giftings he's given us and actually loving ourselves and not walking in pride in that, but just loving who God's made us and just happy with who God has called us to be and not wanting to be someone else. And there's so much wholesomeness to loving yourself that I think we neglect a lot of times as a church, all in the guise of being humble or whatever you would call that. But it melted something in me. So let me just say, hugs are important. Being able to receive love and receive the love of God through the touch of someone else. You know, God has called us to be his hands and feet. And I think that just in something as simple as just telling someone, I'm so glad you're here today, and just that physical touch, it really is an extension of the love of God to other people. And I would just encourage you, if you're having a hard time receiving love, then maybe just pray about that, because I know that the Lord wants to put people around you that will speak love into you, that will love you and love on you. And he wants you to be able to do that for other people as well in just a godly, simple way.